Hi lovelies, how are you all doing today? This is your girl Stitches by Mo. I hope you all like the video I did on the ruche skirt. So for this one we'll be cutting out a milkmaid top. That is, I'll be teaching you guys the simplest method on how to cut a milkmaid top. The simplest method on how to cut a milkmaid top. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing out my starting line. Then I'll be taking 5 inches off this blouse. I'll be taking 5 inches off. It is from this 5 inches my other measurement comes to play. My chest line is my chest line is 7.8. How did I get my chest line? My bust is 38. 38 divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch will give me 7.8. Then I'll also take my blouse. I'll also take my bust points, rather, sorry for that, my bust points. My bust point is 11 inches. I hope you all know how to get the bust points. My bust point is 11 inches. How did I arrive by this 11 inches? My bust is 38. 38 divided by 4 will give me 9.5. 9.5 plus 1.5 inch allowance will give me 11 inches. Then I'll also take my under bust, which is 13.5. Then the blouse length I'm working with 19 inches, like so. Then I'll rule out all this. I'll rule them out. I'll rule it out like so. Then the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking my shoulder to shoulder measurements or my back measurements. But because this is not directly on my shoulder now, this is directly below my shoulder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be minusing 2 from that my shoulder or back measurement. My shoulder to shoulder measurement is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 will give me 8 inches. Then I will be subtracting 2 inches from that, which will give me 6 inches. So I'll put down my 6 inches like so. On this my chest line, this line is my chest line. On this my chest line, I'll be dividing my bust, which is 38. 38 divided by 4 will give me 9.5. I'll find my 9.5 on the tape measurement like so. This is it here. Then my under bust measurement is 30 inches, which will give me 7.5. That is 30 divided by 4 will give me 7.5. Then on my waist measurements, I'll be using 28. My waist is 28. 28 divided by 4 will give me 7 inches, like so. Then I'll connect the lines together. Like so. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be connecting my shoulder line here to my bust line, to my chest line here. I'll connect it, a gentle slope. This is serving as my armhole now. As you can see, that is it. Now since the milkmaid top I'm doing have a band below the under bust, so from this under bust down to the waistline I will be cutting it out. But I'm thinking of adding some design to it. So from this under bust I'm going to be going up by 2 inches. 2 inches. Then I'll be going in by 2 inches also. That means I went up by 2 inches, then I also went in by 2 inches. I'll connect this line together. Now I'll be adding my seam allowance. The seam allowance I want to add to these measurements is 1 inch. 1 inch is enough for me. I'm adding 1 inch all through. 1 inch here, 1 inch here. Then I will connect it. Then I'm also going to be adding 1 inch below it also for my hemline for folding and joining, because this band is going to be cut in two places, one for the main fabric and one for the lining piece. I hope you can see it like so. Then I'm also going to come up. I'm going to be folding, I'm going to be adding 1 inch also. 1 inch, 1 inch. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Then I'll cut it out. You can see this milkmaid top. It's a very simple DIY sewing that you can decide to do by yourself. If you have a sewing machine, you can do different pattern of it. So it's not compulsory for you to go up. It's not compulsory for you to go up by 2 inches or go in by 2 inches. You can decide to leave your straight like this. I'm not leaving my own straight. I decided to create a little bit design to make it like to have this illusion effect of corset. That is what I did here. You can decide to leave your straight and cut it out, or you can decide to add a little bit of design. See it on this pattern piece. I'll cut it on this pattern piece, but before that, let me pin the front pattern to the back pattern. So I'll pin it down. This milkmaid top doesn't have any dart. No dart is needed, except you want to add that to the back piece. You can decide to add that to your own back piece, but for me, I don't think I'll be needing that on the back piece, so I'll be leaving it like that. Or I might later change my mind and still add that to the back piece. It depends on your preference, on what you like. So I've pinned the front pattern to the back pattern. So what I'm going to be doing next is the difference between the front pattern and the back pattern is our zipper allowance. You can decide to leave 1 inch for your zipper allowance or 1.5 inch for your zipper allowance. I prefer to leave 1.5 inch. So I'm going to be leaving 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance. And you can also decide to slant the back side. I will show you what I mean by that shortly. So I'll connect these lines together. This will be serving as my zipper allowance, where my zip is going to stay. So what I will be doing is, I thought about it, I think I'll be adding that to the back. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch allowance for my darts. 1 inch allowance for my dart at the back. So when I'm taking my darts, I know I'm going to be taking 1 inch allowance, because that is what I left for the intake of the darts. So I'll connect like so. So I'll be taking off my pins. Now for the back piece, I don't want the neckline to be this straight. I want it to be slanted down a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be coming down. I'm going to be coming down by 2 inches. I'll go down by 2 inches. I don't want it to be straight. I want it to be slanted. So I'll take my ruler, and from the tip of this place, you can see I slant it out like this. I want it to be slanted. So it depends on your preference. You can make yours straight, you can make yours to have this slanted thing, this slanted design at the back. So this is my back borders. I'll keep it aside, then I'll work on the front borders. Now for the front borders, I'll be cutting this out. You know I told you can decide to cut it straight out like this, because the milkmaid top, rather, sorry, I said cow, don't mind me, because I heard milk and maid. But the milkmaid top has a band from your underbust down to your waistline. It has a band, so you can decide to make yours straight and cut it out like this. But since I wanted mine to have this illusion, like it looked like corset, I'll be cutting it out like so. I hope you can see. So this will be serving as my band. This will be serving as my band. Now this is where the work begins. There's a cheat code to this. I can decide to do the slash and spread method. On this, and I can also decide to leave it like this and still cut it on my pattern piece. I'll show you what I mean shortly. Now this is what I mean. Instead of me doing the slash and spread method, when I talk about the slash and spread method, I can decide to mark 1 inch all through. I can decide to mark 1 inch all through, 1 inch like so, 1 inch like so, and it goes on like that. Then I slash it out to get my fullness, to get that ruche effect, that milkmaid effect on the blouse. But what I'm going to do here is I've folded my fabric into two, and I've taken this pattern paper, the front piece, I've placed it on it like so. You can see what I did here. I hope everyone can see. So it depends on how much you want, how much richness you want, how much you want it to gather. You know how the milkmaid top is, how much you want it to gather on the chest line. So what I did here was I folded my fabric into two, and I left about 9 inches. I left 9 inches. My fabric is folded into two. I left about 9 inches. 9 inches. Then I'll cut it out like so. But before cutting, I'll be pinning it down so there won't be any sort of shiftness on it. Just watch what I'll do. It's very, very easy. It's also the same thing as using the slash and spread method. The only difference is we are not slashing this. We are just going to be adding more fabric to the front piece to create that gathers effect. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be taking my ruler. I'm going to be ruling out a straight line from that M line. I'll be ruling out from the M line on the paper. I'll be ruling out a straight line. Position your ruler like so and rule out a straight line. I hope you can see clearly what I'm doing. And you remember when I was drafting it out on the pattern paper, I came up by 2 inches and I went in by 2 inches. Same thing you are going to do here. You are going to go up by 2 inches from this line. You go up by 2 inches. Then you also come in by 2 inches too. You come in by 2 inches. Then you also connect a gentle slope. You connect it also like so. A gentle slope like so. Why we did it this way is we didn't use the slash and spread method, and we also wanted to get this design here, this pattern here. So that is the same thing you did here, that is the same thing you do here. Now before cutting it out, you leave your 1 inch allowance. 1 inch all through. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. At the upper part you also be leaving 1 inch too. Then you cut it out like so. Yeah, I'll be leaving half an inch allowance. I'll connect it like so. I went ahead to cut my fabric piece, and I cut my back piece. For the back piece I cut four, one for the main fabric and one for the lining. Same thing I did for the band piece. I cut one for the lining and one for the main fabric. I hope you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and iron some interfacing to the back piece and to the band piece. The only one I'm not putting interfacing to is this piece here, the front piece, the upper part of the front piece. That is the only one I'm not adding an interfacing. But for my back piece and my band piece, I'll be adding interface to it. Then I will go ahead and sew my darts on my back piece and bring it for you guys to see.